Have you heard about this personal and professional podcast?
Coaching in Session with your host,
Michael Reardon.
All right, cool. So Martine, did I say it right?
You did. It's actually
Excellent.
a name, but you got it right.
Like, how would you say it in French, though?
Martine.
Martine.
Ooh, nice.
I have not taken French at all in my life. I've taken Spanish for so many years, and I can get by speaking just the bare necessities. And it's a shame because I'm half Puerto Rican, and it's so funny. My mom, she would she would speak to us, and my great grandmother, she would speak to us, but it was never required for us to speak back to them. We can always speak in English to them. And I think it was a cultural thing too, because they wanted us to learn English really well, because my great grandmother, she had came and she couldn't really speak English that well. So in her mind, I bet she was like, okay, I want everyone to learn English because that's the main language. So then this is a second language. And, a parent should always teach their kids, or encourage them at least, to learn a second language. Enough about me. I want to get into your work. Executive and life strategies coach. You have a wonderful backstory, history, 25 years or plus 25 years now, I'm sure, as a lawyer or an attorney. And I think that's going to create an interesting mindset, an interesting dynamic for our show today. Can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help?
Absolutely. So I'm Martine, and I'm a lawyer by profession turned executive and life strategies coach. I want to say almost by accident, and that's kind of a play on word also. In 2016, I was in a very severe car crash, and I got a very serious concussion. Somebody bashed right into me. I didn't even see them coming. I lost consciousness. And unfortunately, for quite a while, I lost the use of my brain. So imagine this, you're a corporate attorney, right? So your brain is like everything that you are. And all of a sudden you don't know who you are anymore because you can't have a conversation like this. I would not have understood a word you said. I could understand every word separately, but together as a sentence would not be able to form a sentence, let alone respond to it. And that was really, really very frightening. There was nothing the neurologist could do, nothing the doctor could do. They were like, you have post-concussive syndrome. We're so sorry. And we don't know if anything's going to be permanent damage. We have to wait about a year and then we'll be able to reassess. And that was the scariest time of my life by far. And I went inward. I had nothing to do but sort of say, I don't know what to do here. And I really didn't feel like myself. It felt like this dark cloud and veil was over me. And I had to find out and get to know myself all over again. And I found that I found like we have in our inner landscape a lot of limiting beliefs, a lot of fears, a lot of self-doubt, everything that's not us, but this enormous amount of clutter that we accumulate from childhood that we don't even know is there, let alone if you know it's there, at least you can do something about it. So that was my journey. Fast forward a few months later, I started to feel like myself again. My brain was still not functional. And I was like, so I'm not my brain. There must be something more to life than just your title, what you do, and even your functionality, your physical functionality. And that gave me the biggest sort of hope in terms of saying, wow, there's got to be a light at the end of the tunnel because I feel like myself again, but yet I'm still not healed. My brain's not healed. And then there's something inside of me that made me go in this direction. And then to this day, I don't know what it is, where, you know how you hear some people heal themselves from a tumor, from cancer, from all sorts of things. And I was like, what if I go inside and look at my synapses and see what's damaged in my brain and what I can fix? And I started tinkering with my synapses. And I know that sounds funny, but actually that's exactly what happened. And when we have the intention and we're all in, because there's no reason not to be, have nothing to lose, there's we have a lot more power than we think we do, both energetically, emotionally, mentally, physically. And I started to heal my brain from the inside out, to the point where I went back to my doctor and she was like floored. I had no reflexes. I couldn't move my eye onto the left. Like, there were a lot of really serious consequences to that concussion that got healed. And that was, for me, miraculous. It was phenomenal. But I got so much insight out of life from it, and what our brain is and what it isn't, what we should do with it, how much we should listen to it and how much not, how much we let it rule our life and take, the driver's seat. And we're not our brain. And I really learned that, but from the inside out. And it kind of really veered into people coming to me for advice and me knowing exactly what to say because I could see everything differently. And it happened over time and it pivoted. And that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was a great accident because I know you're going to be helping so many people with these limiting beliefs and these same situations, or not exactly same, but similar situations that they might be going through, because there's so many doctors that mean well, but then again, they are not there to lie to someone. So if the probability is like 98% chance that you're not going to be able to walk again or do your taxes again, they're just going to say you're not going to be able to do your taxes. But they don't talk about that 2%. They don't talk about the 1%. They don't talk about that 0.0000001%. They don't, like them in their mind, their brain, there's probability, right? It's not a good probability for people to heal sometimes when they are against a wall. And by a wall, I mean others. Others will tell you what you can and can't do. And I always use this story because it's just the easiest story to understand. Roger Bannister, you probably know him, the first man to run the sub 4 minute mile, right? All the doctors, all the scientists, family members say, you can't do it. You can't do it. Sure enough, when he does it, 10 other people do it, I believe, in a week or two. How did that happen? Was it because the scientists were wrong? Was it because the family was wrong? Or was it because someone showed that it was possible? And that is so powerful, where someone can go to the seemingly impossible and come back from that. What would you say to someone who is struggling with all this outside stimulus saying that they can't do it, but it's possible that they can?
So the first thing is to know that it's possible. When you believe, Muhammad Ali, he kept saying, I'm the best, I'm the best. I don't know if he was really the best at the onset, right? If he had all the chances, but he believed it so much that he ended up making sure that was the only option. And that's what we need to do for ourselves. You want something, believe in the process of getting it. Are you fully committed and are you going to go there? And if the answer is yes, then as you move forward in whatever challenge, whatever comes up for you on that path, you are actually eliminating all the possibilities that lead you to not being able to reach your goal. So the first thing is really to believe in you, to believe that if you want this, that means that you can get it. I don't need to be an astronaut that walks on the moon. I don't need to go skydiving. Chances are maybe I'm not able to do that because I have no desire. But if there is an innate desire within you that feels aligned with who you are, it's also almost a message that lets you know you can do this. It's a choice. And you might have to work really hard, but you can do it. So the question is, A, are you fully committed? Are you open to going to do it no matter what it takes? And if the answer is yes, then you need to take the first step. And the first obstacle, in other words, the second step is going to be fear. Fear is always going to be there. And that's brain-based and brain-generated. Oh, what if you fail here? What if you do that? What it's like this keen, sort of like assistant that comes and shows you everything that could go wrong and makes you believe that it's true. So then you want to question it. Do I believe in this fear? Do I believe that what I am now thinking about is a real obstacle? Or is it just a fear of mine? And if it's a real obstacle, what can I do about it? And if it's a fear, how do I eliminate it? Because they're not the same. And as you keep going and growing, you get stronger in who you are. And you really do start to embody that belief so much that before you know it, you've reached the goal and you're surprised. And that's really sort of the pattern, though. So really the step-by-step of doing that. And never, never, never believe something that somebody says if it's not aligned with you. Take it under advisement. I'm putting the lawyer hat on, right? Take it under consideration. Like, think about it. Go explore it. I talk a lot about mind curiosity because that really helps replace fear, right? Blockages. Just be curious about it. Do I agree with the statement that the doctor said? Do I feel something else inside of me where I can go in a different direction? And go explore it. You can choose what you want to do later, but just don't close it off because somebody said something or because your own brain told you something or your own thought pattern led you to something. Make sure you question things. Because as you do that, you keep space and you open possibilities as you move forward in life.
When we start to look at ourselves, we have a true version of ourselves and a lesser version of ourselves. And, for different people, it can mean different things. The lesser version can be, I'm going to hang around my friends and do exactly what they want. So as you said, you didn't have a desire for skydiving, right? But you have all these friends that want to skydive all the time. And you're like, well, I guess I have to skydive with them, even though it's not truly your desire. But in our world today, peer pressure and societal obligations, it might seem, where we have a clear choice to look inward at our innate desires, we often look outside for people to kind of fill in the holes where we might not be fully there, where we're not confident, where we have fear. So someone might have a very bravado type of attitude, behavior, demeanor. And you know what? Like that person gives us the courage to do these things. And we are faced with a dilemma now. Do we look only solely at ourselves, or can we look at other people for encouragement and for betterment? Because there's two sides of the street. There's a good side and there's a negative side, or positive side, negative side. Positive people, they're going to be helping uplift. For example, the work that you do is uplifting, right? It's helping people. But then there's going to be people that are doing the opposite, right? Nope, you can't do it. Nope, like you shouldn't skydive. Nope, you shouldn't even worry about this because it's not even in your ball court. Like there's good people and bad people is basically what I'm trying to say. How would someone find these positive people that are in line with their desires?
So it's funny that you're mentioning it like this, and I want to reframe a little bit with your permission.
Of course.
There are people, and each person that you come across in your journey in life here on earth is going to bring you something. So some people are going to reflect to you back sort of your good points, and they're going to be your cheerleaders on the side, and they're going to sort of always help you and motivate you, and it's going to be very clear what their purpose is because you feel good around them. And then there are people that are going to challenge you, whether you dislike their personality, or they're difficult people, or you're around them and they're always trying to box you into something. And the question is, what's the lesson in that for you? Because they're also reflecting something to you, and chances are they're reflecting some self-doubt that you yourself house inside of you, or they're reflecting something that requires your attention, that needs solidifying or strengthening within you, right? You have to build your own sort of like circuitry to house yourself. Or it's a growth opportunity where you can actually have your own voice, and maybe, sort of stand your ground, strengthen your boundaries. I believe that every person serves a purpose, and I believe that if you look at it that way, you're going to get something valuable, enriching, and meaningful from everybody. It doesn't mean that they have to become your best bud, but they do serve a purpose. And by the way, you serve a purpose back to them as well. So by standing up, or by, if somebody's trying to box you in and sort of voice your opinion, or you stand up to them, or you consider it and say, no, you know what, I actually don't want to go skydiving, but it's because it's not worth it for me. You are much stronger. You've become much stronger in who you are. You've gained awareness about who you are. You've removed some sort of limiting belief where what people say might be, stronger for you than what you think, or what you believe, or what you feel. And that other person will have learned something as well. Because we're all here to help each other navigate this, right? This playground of life.
Beautiful. I like this, the aspect, every person has a purpose, or every person, has a lesson to teach you, whether good or bad, right? I remember this is a long time ago. I talked about it already in the podcast. This is, years ago, maybe 2018, where I went home to visit my mom. I was going to the gym. So I took an Uber there because I didn't get a rental car. I live in Texas. She lives in Connecticut. So it's pretty far. Driver asked what I did for work. I said, I do coaching. He was like, oh, okay. And then he asked me a couple of questions, things like that. And we got into his history, his past a little bit. And he talked about how he was bullied when he was in high school. And then later on, he's an adult now. He says that was probably one of the best things for me, because it taught him resilience. It taught him adversity. Those bullies, they had a purpose. They made him stronger in a sense. Because if he didn't have that, would he have been the person he is today? Maybe, maybe not, right? I always say that adversity is the catalyst to help build a person to their true person. There's ways that you can say it, other ways you can say it, but when we look at our children today, for example, many parents, they love their children. They do. But they do some things that are, I'm not going to say not loving, but detrimental for their child's development. Where if they have a battle that their child should be fighting, let's say the kid is trying to put some blocks up, right? Like they're trying to stack blocks, and the kid just start crying and knocking over the blocks, and the parent just kind of goes up there and says, "It's okay. Look, I'm going to do it for you." Maybe they get a bad grade in school. I'm going to go talk to the teacher, right? And I'm going to yell at the teacher. Do you find that the system that children are growing up in is leading them to these limiting beliefs? Because, as you are right now, and you are helping people come over these fears and adversities and helping them, with their, strategy in life, do you find that there's a lot of harm that has happened in their past that they have to get rid of?
Yes. So most, if not all of our limiting beliefs happen to us in childhood. In my latest book, I call them like layers, and the book is called No More Layers, because what stands between you and the essence of who you are and your real inner power is these things called layers, which are beliefs and sort of the way your persona is created when you're really, really young and you have no filters and everything is the entire world to you, right? So, if your mom leaves for 2 minutes or doesn't give you the cookie, like your whole world has fallen apart, because literally your whole world has fallen apart. You don't have any tools to manage life. So yes, they all come from childhood. And parents have their own limiting beliefs and their own challenges. And being a parent is the biggest challenge of all. It is the thing that's most visceral to a person. It's the thing that brings up their own layers in the biggest way from their own childhood. And I think parenting is a case-by-case basis. I have 2 kids, and in order to get similar results in each kid, very different course of parenting, because each kid has different needs and will need lessons in different ways to help them grow and to, accumulate tools in their toolbox. Because as a parent, that's our job. It's not to do it for the kid or not to. It's, can you really know when your kid needs what for the ultimate goal, which is to grow into this full-fledged adult and citizen of the world, that they can go then out and fulfill their own purpose and be of service to others and help this world, because we can all help each other. So there's more to it than that. But yes, if we're trying to always find the easy way out or getting something off our plate, which today we're so overwhelmed and overburdened with so many things that sometimes that is the only thing we know we can do, it doesn't ultimately serve a purpose. The idea is to slow things down. We're going way too fast for the brain that we have, the body that we have, and frankly, ourselves, our well-being.
What is a tool that can be used or a child can use that is still useful when they're an adult? Like a tool, like tools, like you have tools, like mental tools.
Yeah. So kids are actually really good at this. They're very much in the moment. They live in the moment. They don't think about the future. They're fully engrossed. And if you look at a child, there's a lot that you can learn that if you could do that as an adult, being grateful for the little things, being present in the little things, so much so that you get the maximum out of any experience. Look at a little kid drawing, or look at a little kid playing in the sand. They've eliminated all external noise, right? And we don't know how to do that. We're multitaskers when our brain is not made to multitask. It's not wired that way. So we do 10 things at once, or we think we do. And in fact, we haven't experienced one of those fully at all. So it's to learn to do that and to keep that awe, that sense of discovery. Kids are a lot more fearless than we are. We're the fearful ones. We instill fear in kids. They're not born with a lot of fear, right? So I would say the reverse. Look at a kid and say, what can I bring from that into my adulthood? But for kids, it's really, as they grow up, is allowing them and giving them the tools to learn to figure out who they are. So allowing them a voice, even if you don't agree with them. Not say, I said so, you can't do this. It's more like, hold on a second, I'm going to show you my perspective so you won't want to do this. And I did this with my kids. And to this day, my kids tell me like, you never just told us no. You taught us boundaries, but you explained to us why to the point where it made sense to us in our young minds. And then we were okay with it. Even if we still wanted to do it, we understood why. I think it's taking the time to have a communication with your kid at whatever level and age group they are at goes a long way, because then they feel like they matter. And if they feel like they matter as they grow up, that builds their confidence, that builds their self-esteem, and that gives them tools along the way.
Do you find that adults struggle with the reality that they matter?
I think that today there is an extreme sense of FOMO that's brought on by social media, where people who might have not questioned whether or not they matter start questioning it. Why was I included? Do I matter? Am I important enough? Am I doing enough to be seen? Am I invisible? Is my voice being heard? Because of the way in which we've replaced in-person socializing and creating relationships with a lot of virtual social media, where you get likes means that the whole world likes you, and if you don't get a comment on a post within 20 minutes, then what does that mean? It's not real life. But our brain sort of processes it in the same way that it would a real threat and real life. So imagine how much there is much more for your brain to do. That's why there are high levels of anxiety today, high levels of depression, ADD, all of these things, because we are asked to do something that we are not apt to do, we're not wired for, and there is no quiet. Nobody just sits and is with themselves for a moment and just introspects and just says, okay, hold on a second. Absent of everything else, I need to check in with me. So with a lot of my clients, that's what I do. I do check-ins, and I'm like, where are you at with this? Where's this landing for you? Not to judge it, but to observe and to start being curious about how it is that we're feeling and what is it that's causing what in us. Like to hear everything that's going on the inside, like to go into your inner landscape and to move away from everything that's external, because we are so externally minded and externally pushed that we are no longer part of our own equation.
We look at our life now because most people who listen to the podcast, they're adults, right? They are parents, they're teachers, coaches, etc. They might be going through some hard times. It could be financial, it could be relationship, right? Like career, whatever. They feel as if they have to do it by themselves. Where, of course, listening to the podcast is nice. Like I encourage you to do something, to begin, take the first step at least. But they still feel like they can do it themselves. It's called self-help. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to help myself. We have this mentality. And as you said, most of the issues that we have come from our childhood, and schooling does not help when it comes to helping yourself and understanding that you can rely on people. Look at schooling when you have to take a test. You're by yourself. You're at your desk. Sometimes the teacher tells you to put up a bunch of books. So you're a kid, so you love making a book for it. So you make all these books because you don't want anyone to look at your test or your piece of paper. But you didn't study. So it doesn't even matter. So you are there just trying to say, well, I'm on this desert island by myself. I don't know what I'm doing, but yet this is what I have been told to believe. How can people start to get into the mindset or the lifestyle that, hey, it is okay to ask for help. It is better for me to ask for help when I need it rather than to stay stuck for months or years even. And I understand there's a joy in trying things and trying to figure out, like things out for yourself. I remember when I did, this is a tidbit that I'm gonna give it to you. When I did my first WordPress website, actually even my Squarespace website, I was like, I'm gonna try this by myself. I never created a website before in my life. So I did it. It came out okay, right? It was cool. And then I did the WordPress. That was even more difficult. I was like, Jesus, all this code, like, I don't know what this is. I did my best. And then when I finally said, okay, I need some help, it was like 2 years later, but the business was already fine and everything. It was just that I wanted to have a nice website, but I knew I couldn't do it by myself. So that's when I got my website developer, and he does a great job. We just have a new website up. It's like fantastic. It's like in my head, it's like I could have never done this by myself. So, we have this drive to maybe do things by ourselves because maybe that's what we were told to. But then the reality is, if we reach out to someone, especially someone who has already walked the walk and talked the talk, wouldn't that be a better bet than to, struggle and go through all this turmoil by ourselves?
So I think it's a hybrid. I think that just like what you did, I got a web developer, by the way, because that's not my strength. But there are other things that I try on my own. I won't say by myself. I'll say on my own. And what I mean by that, because words are important, they have energy. That means I own it. It's on my own. In other words, my terms to the extent that I want to do it, and then I can go ask for help. And why do I say that? Because let's take that analogy of the little kid again. The little kid wants to do something on their own. All little kids want to do everything by themselves. They really do. And it's the parents come, I'll help you. You don't know how to do this. So it's reverse. It's as little kids, we're taught that we're not good enough to do certain things. It's true that we don't know how to do them. Doesn't mean we're not good enough to do them. We should always let people start off, especially if they have the drive, but letting them know your expectations, not that you're going to continue or complete. Do it as long as you are happy with the result and you're invested in the process. And when you feel like you're hitting a wall, by all means, bring in other people. Doesn't mean you stop doing it on your own. You're still doing it on your own, but now you're not by yourself. And there's a big difference because none of us are by ourselves. We're all together. It's a fiction that we're separate, right? We're all writing the test individually, but it's a collective. We're all living in the world. I have my own life, you have your own life, but we're really living on the same planet. We're part of a collective. We're part of something greater than ourselves. And I think there's a lot of strength to that, a lot of anchoring and grounding and comfort to that. And social media, while it's created a global community, has also made people feel much more isolated than they ever did. So it's a very interesting paradox that we have to remember. Let's try to do things on our own. And when we get to a point where we've, that there's a shelf life to that, that's expired, we're like, oh, I'm ready for the next step now. I want something more professional. This is what I can do. Great. I feel empowered. I feel like I've gone as far as I can. Now, can I pivot in my brain and not think that this is a failure, but this is the next level? And the next level up, I can pay somebody to come help me, or I can reach out to a coach to come help me, because now I can work together and I still own it. But I brought in extra help. I brought in somebody else from the outside that can guide me further than I can go. But I would always recommend, even if it's in terms of a perspective or preparing, to own yourself. Because at every step that you take later on, you're going to feel empowered and aligned with. And I think that's super important. That's something that in today's world, we don't attach enough importance to, and we don't give people the space and the permission to sort of live aligned. Go with what feels right to you.
Yeah. I know people struggle with the aspect of time. Like, when is the right time to do something? Because they're like, okay, I'm going to go on my own for a little bit, and it's a month, a year, and then it's a lifetime. One of the things many people struggle with, especially here in America, is being overweight, obesity, where, January is always coming, it seems like, around the corner. And guess what? New Year's resolutions, the gyms are packed and they begin, right? They start, which is great, right? I love for you to come into the gym. I see you working out. Awesome. Keep it up. But the reality is that they don't keep it up. They don't create the discipline or develop the habits to do this long term. Do you find that people are so short when it comes to their self-development, personal development, where they will want to do great things in their life? They see this wonderful future for themselves. They say, oh my goodness, this is possible. I know I can do it. But then it's kind of like they start losing the momentum. They start going downhill, or the plane starts to descend. And before you know it, they have landed or crashed, and they're not in the place where they can lift themselves back up. What do you say to those people?
Yes, so that's absolutely correct. And that's actually a brain function. This is how we function, and this is how we're wired. So and that's why New Year's resolutions work, and they work once a year, right? They don't work every 2 months or every 3 months, right? So
Yeah.
This is what happens. We get all psyched and all excited, right? I'm going to do that. We have these huge goals, like ridiculously huge goals. And the bigger, the better, the more exciting it is. And we've just given ourselves a reward before we started working. So I would say, have a big goal, but now reverse engineer. What's my first step? And have a very manageable first step. And then you have another first step, and then another one. So you have your goal, you put it out there, and now you forget about it. I have to do this today, and then tomorrow I have to do that, and then the next days I have to do that. Because as you do it, it's like you're building your house brick by brick. And as you build your house brick by brick and your foundation is solid, you can keep going. But we have to understand ourselves, and we don't have enough self-awareness. We're missing that today. We're so, again, externally oriented, goal-minded rather than process invested. And what I mean by that is you need to understand who you are and how you're wired to then make it work for you. The first 2-3 weeks, people, chances are they're going to be, like you said, the gym is packed and everybody's excited. But there is a point at which you're no longer getting all those endorphins and all that excitement and all those chemicals that are soaring through your body that make you keep on wanting to be motivated. And there's doubt that starts. I don't know, today I'm tired, maybe I won't go, right? It's always that little thing that if you don't catch it, it starts that downward spiral and that kind of like, oh my God, the plane is descending and losing altitude. But it is normal. This is how our brain functions. We get to a point where we plateau, and that is the hardest part. Everybody, or most people, I'm going to say, can start something and start something very big and have the best intentions and be in good faith. The plateau part is where most people will drop off. So if we know about it in advance and we prepare ourselves for it and say, yeah, I know that at some point for a few weeks, I'm just not going to feel like doing this anymore. And my brain's going to come up with a million different reasons not to. And it's really going to push hard. Can I plow through that? Right. And I work with my clients and we work on some sort of like method and we have like a whole sort of course of action. And usually I work with them more like during those times because it's like it's really challenging and it's almost like it's me challenging me. It's not another person creating these obstacles, like what's going on, right? So the more we understand ourselves and we know ourselves and we can bypass all this internal resistance that our brain puts up for us, then we can actually reach our goals. And then after that, there's another peak that you can reach without those obstacles. And then there's another plateau. And so the more we know ourselves and understand ourselves and can learn how to observe our brain patterns without getting stuck in them, the more we can reach our goals. And I work with my clients on that, both in terms of what you're talking about, in terms of reaching your goals in business, in life in general, and in terms of like getting rid of those limiting beliefs that pop up on the way. Because what we also do is like, what is that internal resistance? Where is it coming from? What is it trying to tell you? And what remnant is like expressing itself that you may want to get rid of?
I think that's a beautiful segue for you to tell the world how they can reach out to you and like say, hey, like I'm interested. I want to get something started. I'm ready now. I'm not ready January 1st. I'm ready now. Tell the world how they can find you.
Every day is a day to set your intentions and to take that first step. And like I tell people, there's only one first step. And once you've taken that first step, you can take the second and the third because now you know you can, right? And then it becomes your choice. So they can reach me at my website, www.martinecohen.com. If they go into that and then /inner guide, they have there's a guide that I put forward that I'm gifting to all your listeners today. It all starts with our thoughts. It all starts with our mindset. And it starts with just like removing all that clutter that we're bombarded with today. So that's a 7-day guide to that. I'm happy to say that I've written a book. They can go on Amazon and they can pre-order it. And it's called No More Layers, Discover Your Inner Power and Reclaim True Freedom from the Inside Out. Because once we know ourselves and we discover our inner power and we get rid of our layers, that's when we can experience true freedom. And your true freedom is not external, it's internal. When you show up to the world aligned, you can pretty much do whatever you set your mind to do, and you will live a life that it's much more meaningful and rich, and you'll be able to serve your purpose.
I was thinking about the aspect, when you introduced the book early on about the aspect of layers, I was actually thinking about that probably just this past week or probably like 2 weeks ago, where I was thinking about how layers are built from when we're young and when we're old, and it's, like the onion, analogy, where we have many layers to us. And sometimes it can take a while to peel back those layers that have been, accumulating over the time, over years and time. But we can't be afraid to explore, right? Like who we truly are, because the world is so quick to tell you who you should be or what you should have or what you should do. But the reality is you have a voice inside of you. That voice can be powerful. That voice can be weak. It could be little, it could be big. And oftentimes the littlest voice that says that you can't do something is the one you listen to. But you have a stronger voice. You have a more powerful voice. You have a voice that should be empowered. That should be that. And if you need help with that, Don't wait. Don't say you'll do it later. I know that's easy, like I'm gonna put it on my to-do list for later, but you should not wait. Like you being good should be a priority. I understand we have to have some empathy for ourselves or sympathy for ourselves, but the reality is, for me at least, you should want good in your life. Most people do, but most people, they always start or they always stop short of greatness, where it was always there for you. The limiting beliefs, the plateaus that we talked about, they're going to be something that you have to break through. And I have found the best way for individuals to do that is with a coach, with someone who can be on your side, who could be your teammate, that's going to help encourage you and to have faith in you, because we can believe all day in you, but you do have to believe in yourself, as we said early on. So I do want to thank you, Martine, for coming on. We had a lovely conversation today. All the links that you said are going to be in the description box below, so people can easily check out your website. They can pre-order your book or purchase your book. That's going to be a great way for them to begin. And then, of course, from there to begin to change their life.
It's a pleasure to be on this podcast today. Thank you, Michael.